Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Cedar Flags. This is one of those episodes that I'm pretty excited to share with you guys because we get a lot done. But this is also one of those episodes that I probably could have and maybe should have broken up into like 2 or 3 episodes. But lucky for you guys, we're going to be able to do one complete project here in one episode, which is, I guess, cool, but it also means it took a little bit longer to make, so I apologize for that. I'm never really sure if you guys want to see more frequent episodes or episodes with, like, more going on, like a complete project instead of breaking them up. So I guess let me know in the comments below. I may do like a Twitter poll on that later, so I'll let you guys know. Follow me on Twitter. As always, the link is down below in the description for updates like that. But anyway, what are we doing? Well, we are going ahead and making our new family-friendly ride. That is the antique car ride. So I think every great park needs one of these in some capacity. I'm basing that off of absolutely nothing. I feel like it's one of those rides that is just kind of classic for a theme or amusement park, and I think it fits really well into this area. So I don't know if I was originally planning on doing this ride over here, but it turns out it's a pretty decent area for this. The way all these paths kind of came together, it made this a little awkward, and we had the train running through here into this little woods or foresty type area down here. The forest area actually came about because I did the Summit Runner POV video, and when I do those videos, I like to do a lot of cinematics, and I don't like having like a lot of blank backgrounds, so I usually just temporarily fill up space with a bunch of trees, so like in the overarching shots, you don't just see a bunch of flat land. I feel like that is kind of off-putting. So usually I put these trees in temporarily, but I put these trees down here and made this little bit of like a planter type area in that I built this area up a little bit from the path, so it looks like we cut the path out. And I actually really liked how this came out, so we're keeping this, and instead of doing something with this awkward area that I think I was planning on doing like a restaurant down here. I'm pretty sure I've talked about that in the past, but we're going to be doing this little ride in here instead, and then our restaurant will have to be moved somewhere else, and I'm not really sure where we're going to do that, so we'll maybe discuss that in the live portion of this episode. But as you can see, the ride itself is twisty, turny, hilly. I think that's the best you can get out of a ride like this. I mean, these aren't like fully like amusement rides, you know, these aren't super exciting. They're more of a family thing. I remember going on a couple of these with my parents back in the day when I was younger, and it's really fun as a kid because you get to drive a car, you know. You're not allowed to drive cars yet because you're too young, but this makes it feel like you're in total control of your car, and it's pretty fun. If you have never been on one of these, they are basically little almost go-karts, but they're usually built like antique cars, and they actually drive. You can hit the gas, hit the brakes, I think. Maybe they don't have a brake, but you hit the gas and it goes, and then you can steer them a little bit. Now, if you look in the middle of the track here, there's actually usually a rail, and on the cars, there's a little bit of like a guidance system, so you have a little bit of leeway. You can turn, but if you don't turn and just hit the gas, the ride will keep driving, and it'll keep you safe. So that is how these work. And like I said, as a young kid, these were awesome. I'm sure if I went on those as an adult, they might not be as fun, although it has a lot to do with the scenery around the ride, I feel like. So this is supposed to be a really casual, scenic little drive through our little area here, and it lets me showcase, once again, my landscaping skills. And as you can see, we're taking a lot of influence from what we already had over here, and we're just tweaking them to fit the design over here, and it's kind of fun. I think I have a pretty general idea of what I want to do with a lot of the landscaping around here now, and I think we've hit basically like a style, especially like moving within parts here and there. And what I mean by that is I think you can probably from the front of the park, as you move back, I think we've done a pretty decent job of like blending all of the nature together. But I think if you just like start at the front and then jump toward the back, there's probably some sort of stylistic change in the way I've been doing things. So back here, there's a lot more undergrowth. There's a lot of bushes and I actually start using a lot of there's a bush that's really just like barren. It's like a twig type bush. And I was using a lot of that back here, and I think we're gonna end up using that around this area. So yeah, I think I'm getting the hang of that kind of thing. Styling has never really been one of my strong points, I don't feel. And what I mean by that is I feel like theming like a particular area, I kind of lack that in keeping a consistent theme throughout an area. But I feel like I can build in certain styles, and I feel like we have a lot of that going on where like one project was built this way, one project was built that way, but together they're kind of awkward and they're kind of just jammed right next to each other. And I think if there's one thing that I could improve on in building in this game, it's probably that. But I don't know, I guess you guys can let me know what you think. It's not necessarily a theme park, what we've been building here. It's more of an amusement park. So kind of jumping between style and style. It works, but it's not like a Disneyland where everything is themed, and especially like a Universal where if you're in one particular part, it's themed in one way, and it may be a really small area, but they do a very great job of like keeping that theming within sight lines. So like even though a new theme is like a 2-minute walk down the path, you don't even realize it until you get there. That's really cool, and that's something that I'm not that great about, but I'm trying to get better, and I think doing some of this landscape work has taught me some of that. And I think if we were to ever actually theme like a complete area, I could probably get the hang of that. But what we've been basically doing here is starting on the station work. I put down that little concrete slab, and we end up eventually building over that. But before we do that, we needed to get our pathing all situated here. And it's another really awesome day of, you know, trying to work in the Planet Coaster pathing, and it doesn't necessarily want to, you know, work really well for you. And I kept trying to get this little exit to not squish the ground down and create a divot, but unfortunately, I just could not escape that. And I don't know what was going on with that. I think it was basically because the station itself was technically elevated while the path was not. So when you make that transition from a non-elevated path up to that station, it wanted to do like a slope, and the flattened terrain was just, I turned it on and off, it had no result, or no different result, but the flattening of the terrain just happened. So we had to eventually go in with some scenery and cover all of that up, and we're just adjusting some of this other scenery. I bounced back and forth a little bit. I noticed as I was editing this time lapse, I bounced back from like doing some station work to then jumping in and doing some more nature work, and then I think I get bored of nature work here and there. I don't really know what my like thought process is going on through all of this sometimes, but I get bored of that maybe, and I jump back onto the station. I don't know, that's one of those things that I guess you guys can see if you ever catch a live stream. And actually some of this episode was done over on Twitch. I have not done a live stream on YouTube in a little bit, but that may be changing. I guess I do want to make like an update video for my channel, but I will mention that I'm thinking about potentially making a second channel and here on YouTube, and basically keeping that as like a stream archive. So if you don't catch the Twitch streams and you still want to watch them, they will be over on YouTube, which is, I guess, a good thing. The weird thing about that is I could not listen to like copyrighted music, but that's not a big deal for me. So I may be looking at that. Let me know what you guys think of that. And like I said, I do want to do like a state of the channel address video at some point here in the near future, within like a week or two. So keep your eye out for that. I'm trying to make some changes here in 2019, and we're going to be hopefully revamping the channel, or not revamping, but just maybe jumping more into certain things. So stay tuned for that. Like I said, follow me on Twitter if you want some more of those updates, or just keep your eye out for that video. But anyway, we're getting to a point here in this build that I actually absolutely adore. I love this covered bridge, and this is really, I don't know if like every antique car ride has one of these, but every one that I think I've ever been on has a really awesome little covered bridge. And this one, I just pulled up a reference photo. I found a bridge that looked pretty cool. I just searched Google for covered bridge, and I found one that was like, it's simple, but it's not simple, and that's what we went for here. So as you can see, there's a little bit of intricate woodworking going on, but it's nothing that's gonna like break the bank here. So I'm not like overdoing the prop count here on this or anything like that. This is all pretty simple, but it's just the little touches like under this bridge. You're never really gonna see this unless you're on the ride or down at like people level in the game. But this is one of those things that just, these little cross sections up here add that little bit of detail, and it's that sets this apart from just like a just building with like wall pieces, you know? So this is really what I was going for here. Like I said, simple, but really elegant, almost. I don't know if you could call it elegant. I will, but yeah, it was a matter of putting some of these together, and then these wood pieces on the side here are just filling some of the gaps we have going on because of the way, or the nature of how those wall pieces actually work. And of course, we put the wood flooring down on the base, and it covers the track, which I don't know if that's realistic or not, but I felt like it was a cool little addition. It makes it feel like you're actually going over something as you go through this ride. And yeah, I mean, this is a cool little bridge, and it's just so simple. Now, the weird thing about this bridge was the roofing situation here, and the roof pieces were, you know, when you put a predefined roof down, it's got a certain, like, it fits over the little slope sections perfectly, but I wanted to have a little bit of an overhang here. And so you saw me actually go through and cut the grid down to, I think, like 3 feet or whatever it is. And we take it down just a touch. And unfortunately, what that does is it clips the roof through the other roof, and it's usually pretty good until you scroll out a little bit, and then it has some Z fighting going on. So what I have to eventually do is go in and take the overlapped roof sections and break them into their own building, and then lower one just slightly just to get that to not happen anymore, which is cool, but it also means that I couldn't just like upload this to the Steam Workshop just because it's no longer just one building. So that's a little unfortunate, but it's something that for the park I'm fine with. And honestly, I haven't been doing a lot of like buildings up on the Steam Workshop. I've done my save files. Also, speaking of that, I'll probably upload this file to the Steam Workshop. So if you guys want to download this park and see what's going on so far through the series, go ahead and check the Steam Workshop for that. I haven't been doing that the past few episodes, mostly because I've been working in the scenario editor to get out of the park boundaries. But now that we're back on just a regular sandbox save, we're all good to start doing that again. So I will hopefully remember to do that, but sometimes I don't. So if you're ever like looking for an episode on the Steam Workshop and it's not there, let me know, either in a comment here, because I do read all the comments on YouTube, or let me know on Twitter. That's probably the fastest way to get a hold of me, is via Twitter. But no, that's just one of those things. But like I said, this is one of those builds that I don't think I can just strictly put up, like strip out of the park and put up on the Steam Workshop, just because of the way I had to build this. But it's all kind of coming together here now. We're putting a couple little final touches here on this, and that is the little supports down underneath. It's not necessarily doing much. It's just adding a little bit of like a unique support looking structure down there. I'm not necessarily sure if those would actually do anything because there's no like cross pieces in there. But from an engineering standpoint, it may fail. But from a game standpoint, it looks really good. So pretty happy with how this came out. We put a little bit of a decoration up top there. Really couldn't find anything to do up there, so I just put a little a king coaster emblem or whatever it is up there. It filled the space up. I wasn't originally going to do that, but it did have a little bit of like an empty space, and I think the reference photo I was working from actually had like a little sign up there, which was cool, but I didn't necessarily want to put a sign up over that bridge. So that is all done. We're going back in now and doing some more of the landscaping, just filling this area back out with trees. Remember, we did delete a lot of those in the beginning here, but we're filling that back up. Little touches here and there with those rocks. And if you join my channel here with a premium membership on YouTube, you'll get the rock emote that I have, Rocky as I call him. And yeah, the rocks are here. And these are the twig bushes that I was talking about. But yes, this area is filling up with some nature work. I tried to keep it fairly refined, and I definitely had to pay attention to like the headspace over the track or road or whatever you want to call it. We definitely needed to make sure the cars cleared all the trees, so that's one thing that was pretty limiting, but it really wasn't that bad. So that all works out, and of course we jump over to the station area. So we were kind of limited in what we could do here. This was kind of weird because I have these rounded corner pieces here on the platform. I really liked these because it fit the track as well. Like the track rounds off, to go back into the station. So this little platform has round corners, which is really cool, but the only problem with this was the roofing. So there are not a lot of options for like round parts of roofs. So as you can see, I think that was the fairy tale roof. They had a round roof, which was interesting. I almost considered using that, but I took a step back and I was like, this building's like massive, and I'm not planning on putting any walls in this, so it looked a little too weird, and I think we may use those roofs for something in the future. I'm not necessarily sure what just yet, but in lieu of that, or because we're not doing that, we are using just a flat roof, but we're keeping the little, I don't even know what you call these, the base of the roofs down here, just to add a little bit of roofing here. And we're going to jump in a little bit here, and actually right now, and add more to this roof. And this is kind of taking the same pavilion type feel as we have for the guest lockers that we did very, very long ago. And those are near the front of the park. Actually, you know what? We could probably do another locker system somewhere back here. A lot of amusement parks have lockers throughout the park, just like mostly near roller coasters, just in case you want to put a quarter in and drop all your stuff off while you ride the ride. And that might be a good idea to keep throwing in, and we haven't really done that in a while. But anyway, we're supporting all of this now, and it was really just a matter of how do we do this. So like I said, I didn't want to have actual walls over here. I like the pavilion feel, but it's just, it all came together in the end. But it was one of those methods, and if you actually caught this live stream, this we did do on the live stream, if you caught this, it was like I went in a little blind, and I was like, I kind of have an idea of what we were gonna do here, but we're gonna have to try to work it through. And eventually we come out with a pretty decent idea, and it looks great in the end. But it was one of those processes where it was just like, what do we do, how do we do it, and what are going to be the headaches along the way. And there were a few of them, mainly because we had to do custom railings for all of this. We'll get to that in a little bit here, but I'll point out some of the issues we had moving forward when we get into that part. But before we do that, we're working on the top here. So this is kind of weird. I'll be honest, I didn't know if I liked this until the end, and you'll see why I like this toward the end. But this roof has like an open space, and it's because of the way of the count, like the spacing of all of this. There's not like a single tile of roof that has like the apex on it, if that makes any sense. So to make like the crest of the roof, you have to put two slopes together. So it was a little weird, and I was just gonna leave this open, but we got into it, and eventually you'll see what happens. But before we get into all of that, you're seeing a couple little interior things here, and this was because the roof was a little bit floaty from the inside, like, if that makes sense. From the outside, you had the wall that connects it, but from the inside, it looked like it was just up there without reason. So we put these little cross supports up, and we're actually doing something that I very, very rarely do, and that is lighting. So we lit the inside of this, and this looks awesome at night. So I'm sure you'll probably get a glimpse of this here when we get throughout this little time lapse. But it looks great, and it's one of those things that I probably should be doing a lot more of. And honestly, I don't know, I may do like a live stream where we only focus on lighting. I've been talking about that forever. We never got around to it. Or I may eventually do just an episode where all we do is go around and light everything up, but I'm not sure about that. This lighting came out pretty nice for this though, which was pretty cool. But we're getting into the little frustrating part of this whole build, and that was the railing sections here. So as you can see, the spacing is it's a little awkward. So the vertical supports we have are not based on the grid system. They are all put in by hand by me, and it was fun. I tried to get them as perfect as I could to like the grid, but then the actual pre-built railings didn't fit. So what we had to do is go ahead and fit all of these custom ones in, which was fine until we got to the curves, and the curves were the most annoying part of this whole thing. And that came back to the spacing thing once again, but you'll see where we actually have to do for that in a little bit here. But before that, we're going through and doing a little bit with the queue line itself. We took all of the railings down. I just figured if we're gonna do custom supports for the whole station, we might as well do them for the queue itself as well. But we'll get to that. Like I said, I jump around a lot when I'm doing these builds, and I don't know why. I think it's not ADD so much as just working from one thing and then being like, all right, I gotta do this, now I gotta do this, oh, now I have to go back. It's not like a logic of how I'm gonna do things in a method. It's more of just like, I'm doing this, oh, now I have to do this, and I like look over somewhere else, I'm like, oh, now I gotta do this. But anyway, we're finishing up the sides here. The sides were a little bit different from the long sides, if that makes any sense. They weren't the same spacing. Like I said, these custom vertical supports were a little bit awkward. And again, this is the pain right here. This was annoying, and it almost made me rage quit. I pull over the side railings, the horizontal railings that we had going. They didn't fit. And for whatever reason, I got really sad about this because I thought it meant we're gonna have to do some really bold stuff here. But eventually we end up finding another railing piece that worked a little bit better. So luckily we didn't have to redo like the entirety of all that stuff we just did. So I was kind of happy about that. But like, yeah, as you can see, I was trying a couple different remedies to this. I was thinking of maybe just putting a straight piece across the entire way, and that really didn't look good. So again, I have to sometimes suffer for the art here. We eventually have to engineer just a new piece here, and it even with this little, I think it was a 1 meter support piece, it still didn't fit. So we had to double those up. They were like 1.2 meters or something. However they measure that, I'm just totally guessing about that. But that ends up fitting. Again, with the Z fighting, we had to kind of adjust how those things sat within like each other. But luckily, they didn't look too different from the pieces that we had already put down in the railings. So, unless you know that they're different pieces, you probably at first glance would never have even thought like, oh, these are wrong. The curved railings are a little bit thicker than the straight ones. Nah, I think we're okay with it. We got away with it, and I'm actually pretty happy that we did. But finishing up some of that, we had some more detailing work to do on the inside. I had a couple people in the Twitch chat suggesting things to do in here. A couple people were saying luggage. I found these barrels as well, and I was like, all right, so oil comes in barrels, even though they're wooden. They're antique cars, so oil used to probably come in wooden barrels. And as I went through some of the animatronic stuff, I've never really looked into the animatronics too much, but I found this oiled pump, and this fits so well in here. This made me absolutely love this little build. Up to this point, I was like, this station's a little weird, you know? It's got an open top for no reason, and it's just kind of like a weird pavilion that was just kind of shoehorned in here. And then I found this oil pump, and I was like, all right, this actually looks like we intentionally left the top open just so this fits in there. It's really cool because it pokes out the top, and when you're farther away, you can actually see it moving. So it was really, as Bob Ross may say, it was a happy accident. Like, it was awesome to find this, and it just fits so well in the space that we had to include it. And it makes sense here. I mean, you got oil, you got the cars, you got gas. It's all good, I guess. It all worked out for the best. And of course, we just had to fill out some of the rest of that space there with a couple more crates. And then we're going to move on to the one last part that I had to do for this build, and that was the landscaping around the immediate area of the station, and then the queue. I really wanted to cover this queue up. We have the railings that I basically copy and pasted from what we just did. Why reinvent the wheel? You know what I'm saying there? But these are the same thing, adjusted a little bit here and there to follow the queue and the exit. And then, of course, we had a little bit of a curve here that we settled. And then I wanted to put some sort of roofing over this. This is one of those rides that I feel like as you're walking through the park, if it's a hot day, you want to go on something that's like a little bit more easy. a little bit more gentle. So this is exactly what that ride is. But as you're waiting for your car, I feel like you'd want to be in the shade. That's just the whole vibe of this ride to me, was just easy going. So I wanted to get some sort of shade going in here. I had originally thought of just putting like a roof down. As you saw, I tried that. It didn't really look that great. So what we did is put these overhead, I don't even know what these are called, scaffolding, or not scaffolding, lattice almost. I don't even know. I'm sure somebody in the comments will let me know what this is called. But we put that up there. We put the little shrubbery up there, my favorite little ground cover up there. It creates like a natural shade. And then, of course, we have to go around and do a little bit of landscaping work in the immediate areas. And this was a little bit of a challenge here because, as you can see, there's a slope on this path that goes down. And I wanted to do some sort of fencing over here without like a fence itself. So what we end up doing is just outlining this whole planter bed area with the beams that we had been using for the station. And then, of course, on both sides of the station, we got to do that. But we end up doing like a little bit of a planter bed here, and we end up putting some bushes down, and it ends up looking pretty cool. And it's just a really nice way to keep like the area defined. You know this belongs to this station because there's a border that matches it. And it was a really cool little thing to do down here, and it fits the area very well. And it gets into the landscape. It works really good down here, and I love it. But we add a couple little details here and there as well. This little cart, I don't really know why I put this there. It filled that area up a little bit more, and it was something that had wheels on it. So I felt like, wheels and cars and tracks and stuff, that fit pretty well down there. And then, of course, we put a couple carriage wheels down here in like a tipped over bin. I felt like that was kind of cool. Originally, I had thought of maybe putting a sign down there, but I end up finding this little sign that's on a hanger here, and we put that in instead. I've just put antique cars on the sign. I'm not really sure if we should name this thing anything. So if you guys have a suggestion for this ride, like what we should name it, go ahead and leave it in the comments below, and maybe I'll use that and I'll put that on the sign instead of just saying antique cars, come ride them, So that's one of those little touches. I'm at this point, I think I was a little drained of creativity, so I need you guys to help me out with that. But we're just finishing this up, and let's head over to the live portion. We are live here in Cedar Flags over our new ride, and doesn't it just look so beautiful with the train rolling through the tracks, and we have the cars rolling through the mountains down here, or the hills. I don't know if they're mountains, but you know what I mean. This is a really awesome and awesomely scenic area. And I said awesome too many times there, but whatever. This is a really cool little area. I do want to mention one thing that I didn't do. Oh no, this person's gonna walk right through the train. Don't do it. No. Oh well. Yeah, we have to deal with that. But no, the one thing that I did do I think I cut it out of the time lapse, was I found these little gates here, or archways, that are really cool. They just fit right in here, and they look really awesome. And they're actually a cool way to keep people from like theoretically jumping around the barriers here. So that's one thing that I didn't put in, but we did do. But anyway, let's take a quick look around this, and then I guess, you know what? We'll go ahead and do a POV of this ride in this episode. I usually do their own episodes, but since we did the entire project in this video, I figure we might as well do the POV at the end of this. So hopefully you guys will like that. And yes, this little area is just really awesome. And I like that we now have this path connected up with the rest of the main path, and it's coming together here. So we still have nothing going on this side. And in fact, we still have some of the the nature work that I was copying in. I didn't delete that, but we'll go and delete that whenever we go to build whatever goes next in there. And like I've been saying, this may be a good spot for another roller coaster, so we'll probably do that. But again, I do want to get a couple more like family friendly or like flat rides in this park somewhere, so we're gonna have to figure that out as well. And I have been saying that I want to do some sort of restaurant as well. So yes, there's a lot to do here in Cedar Flags, and hopefully this series will be over in 2019. That's one of those things that I'm kind of shooting for, but we'll get to that when we get to that. There's still a lot to do, but as we just kind of take a look here, I love this little area. Like I said, this was all built just on a whim just for the Summit Runner video, but I like how it raises up beyond the rocks, and like we have this little planter bed down here, but it raises up and it just fits perfectly to have this little antique ride car. People walking down here can see people having fun on this. It adds a little bit of motion into what otherwise would just be a motionless piece of nature up here. So this is really cool. And as you're walking down here, it looks great and it's very intriguing. So if somebody were to like walk down this main path, they'd be like, oh, I want to go on that. How do we get there? And then they have to go around here, and it introduces them to new areas of the park. And it's just kind of cool. Like I said, the oil well is poking out the top. It's almost like we meant to do that, and we totally didn't. But yeah, this is coming together. It was pretty cool. Back from here, you don't really see the station, which I don't know if I designed. I don't think I really thought about that as I was placing the trees down. Usually I'm pretty good with that kind of stuff, but I think it's okay to not see it, and it's kind of just like one of those surprises. I mean, obviously you can see the cars on the track, and you know to probably go this way, and the station's right here, so that's all good. But that's, I guess, just about it here. Let's go ahead and hop on. All right, so we're in the back seat of one of these cars here, and actually we have a young person driving us around here, which is pretty cool. I talked about that a little bit in the time lapse, how this was a really fun ride for younger folks, so that's pretty fitting. But yeah, this is pretty scenic here. You go up and down hills, down some twists and turns, and it's really all you can ask for in a ride like this. This is one of those rides where it's not going to be super thrilling, but it's just one of those family fun activities to do at the park, and it offers a really awesome and unique view for this area. So I love all of these little, like, you can see the roller coaster pop through the trees a little bit here and there. And of course, as we build up more of the park, you'll be able to see new rides here and there. And it's just really cool. So this was a fun project. It took a while, and I love seeing that train roll through here at the same time. It's so nice. But yeah, moving forward, what are we going to be doing in the next few episodes? I think we have a restaurant to build at some point. Hopefully we'll get that done in the next few episodes. Like I mentioned, a couple flat rides we still need to put in here and there, so we'll end up doing some of that. And I don't know when the next time we're going to be doing like a roller coaster is. Hopefully not too far away, because that is one of the more fun things for me to do in this game, is build roller coasters. But we'll get to that when we get to that. Guys, if you liked this episode, go ahead and hit the thumbs up button. If you disliked it, thumbs down, of course. Go ahead and check out my Patreon if you'd like to get your name in the credits of my videos and support me a little bit along the way. And until next time, I'll see you guys back here in Cedar Flags.